What's going on, everybody? Coming back at you with another Magic the Gathering video. In today's video, we dive into my work in progress Witherbloom deck. We're going to be actually taking this on an event and kind of seeing how we do with it. Essentially, an event is a thing we can do in standard and take a deck and see how many wins we can get before we lose 3 times. Essentially, it's just another way we can invest our gold into possibly, trying to cash out for even more gold. Before we dive into really what an event is, I'm just going to kind of give you the rundown of the deck we're going to be bringing in. If you haven't seen the deck posted on the channel, essentially we are playing Witherbloom in some form as a whole. It's kind of like a work in progress, I would say. We're a little bit lacking on the removal, as a lot of the good removal currently in Standard is uncommon. And as you can kind of look at the top at our little Lotus logo, we are only sitting at 3 common wild cards. So we don't really have a lot to work with when it comes to actually adding in any more removal and whatnot. So our real main focus here is just going all in on our win condition. But with that being said, if you've seen my budget version of this deck, it's kind of similar with a couple little different tweaks. We are being a little bit more aggressive because of the lack of removal. That's why you see something like Flex the Vex and Pest in the deck. He gives all our bats, insects, snakes, and spiders we control +1/+1, and if he dies, we gain 4 life. If we want in the late game, we can always pay the other side and just really, dig into the top 5 cards of our library and put any of them into our hand and taking 3 life in the process of this. But Flex is kind of more so our pest slash bat lord. And if you kind of understand the whole Witherbloom process, it's getting things out like Witherbloom Apprentice, Bastion of Remembrance, Sedgemoor Witch, and being able to play our spells in our deck, creating more pest tokens, overwhelm our opponent in that way, while they kind of get pinged for 1 point of damage here, 1 point of damage there, so on and so forth, while also kind of swinging in with those little 1 points of damage as well. The one thing I will say going into the event is going to be kind of interesting, just on the basis of a lot of times in these events, people are playing those meta style decks because the idea here is you want to play a deck that's going to consistently get you probably to 5 or more wins, just because I think after 5 wins is where you kind of cash out and actually make money from playing the event, so that you can technically then kind of recycle the currency you're using to keep on playing more events in the future. I mean, nothing's really super different about my deck that I have here other than the lack of removal. We are playing 1 Mortality Spear, just because that's all I could afford, and 1 Binding the Old Gods that I pulled in a pack. So that is kind of my removal piece of the deck. We have Eye Twitch for the Learn, going into our Learn board, having Environmental Sciences, Pest Summoning, and 1 Induction of Annihilation as another way to have a removal just in case if they do play something that we just need to get rid of. We have Valentine, the Dean of the Vein, just a 1-drop, 1/1. Menace Lifelinker, definitely very good in that sense. If anyone has anything that has things like go in the graveyard, when they would die, they get exiled instead, and then we could pay 2 in that process and create pest tokens that way. Possibly in the late game, if we're gaining a lot of life, or we have ways to kind of cycle in life gain on our turn, we can pay 1, give our creatures +1/+1, and they gain trample to end a turn. So definitely a good, interesting way to maybe finish our opponent with a very wide, aggressive pest board in that sense. Village Rites to dig a little bit deeper to kind of dig up and hopefully find the cards we need to kind of, get the cycle going. Just a very good way to also have Sacrifice Fodder if we just want to ping our opponent for a point of damage. Create another pest with a Sedgemoor Witch, so on and so forth. Hunt of Specimens, just another card that has Learn. It creates a 1/1 pest token, and we learn, so we go to our Learn board. Plumb of the Forbidden, just a good way to sacrifice a whole bunch of things at once to ping our opponent for damage, while at the same time too drawing us a card while at the cost of losing a life. Typically, you want to set this up with something like a Witherbloom Apprentice and or a Bastion on the field before you really go off with it. Biogroff, just an interesting 2-drop 5/4 for 2 mana. If we have a pest on the battlefield, we can sacrifice that pest. Or in the late game, if we just draw it and we just need a big body on the battlefield, we pay 5 mana essentially by paying the additional 3 and just playing it out in the battlefield. We have 2 copies of Dina, just another thing. Whenever we gain life, our opponent each loses 1 life. This is kind of like, in a weird way, a card that's probably going to be in the Witherbloom deck going forward once Bastion cycles out, just because it's just another way for us to ping our opponent that way. We can also tap 1, sacrifice another creature, and she gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is that sacrifice creature's power. So she can eat, our pest, she can eat our Groff, she can eat creatures that we have on the battlefield, just to kind of give us that additional power on when she swings if she becomes not blocked. Witherbloom Apprentice, another key card here. Whenever we cast a spell, our opponent loses 1 life, we gain 1 life. Just kind of, this is the card that sets us up to kind of go off pretty big, especially when we go for a big plum. 4 copies of Bastion of Remembrance, because yet again, another card that whenever our things die, because typically we can throw our pests in front of things just to block to, have them die in the process, and it just allows us to kind of ping our opponent for 1 point of damage regardless if our creature lives and or dies or does damage to their face. Sedgemoor Witch, yet again, another card that's very good. Whenever we cast spells, creates 1/1 pest tokens, as well as has ward. And if our opponent wants to target with a spell, they have to pay 3 life to actually do that. And she also has menace, which is actually very good and pretty decent, because if your opponent doesn't have a very wide board, she can actually swing in pretty decently, because if they only have 1 creature, they can't actually block her. So definitely pretty good in that sense. Blex, yet again, like I said before, he essentially pumps our pests and our bats in the deck. We don't play any other creature types, so unfortunately, we're not going to get any other +1/+1 on any other creatures. But also, when he dies, we gain 4 life. So essentially, we can sacrifice him to like a village rites if we really need that 4 life. Gain 2 cards out of it. So overall, pretty decent card there. 3 mana for a 3/2. And then we got 1 copy of Bind-In just because I need removal, and 1 copy of Mortality Spear. Yet again, actually a pretty decent removal that I think people underestimate, just because the idea here, it's actually not just destroy target creature, it's destroy non-land permanent, so it's actually anything on the board. So it's actually not that bad, other than lands, of course, but actually not that bad. 4 mana to have that effect and or destroy, you know, instant speed is also very good, and if one of our pests die in the process, we only have to pay 2 mana, which is definitely also good. Our mana base is actually pretty straightforward. We actually did have a decent amount of rare wild cards to work with, so we have 13 swamps, 5 forests. We had 3 pathways of the green and black variety. We also have 2 copies of Jungle Hollow, 1 Snarl, and 1 Witherbloom Campus. We actually, I guess, pulled this from our Strixhaven packs. I noticed it when I was building the deck. I didn't realize I had actually a Snarl for the green-black, so overall pretty decent. The one downfall is if we don't have a basic in our hand, it comes into the battlefield tapped. Other than that, produces green and black mana. And I mean, this is the deck. It's pretty good. I did do some games on my stream that I do every Saturday here on the channel at 9 a.m. So if you guys want to check me live, I'll probably be playing this deck as well as a few other things, just trying to, you know, get this deck better, get this account more currency, things like that. With that being said, let's dive into the event and let's kind of talk about that real quick before we actually dive into some games. So here is the standard event. Essentially, this is another format, kind of like draft and whatnot, that we have in Arena, that you can spend some of your currency. It only costs 500 gold or 95 gems, depending on what you wanted to spend. Typically, I would say you want to spend the gold just because it's easier for you to obtain that than gems, especially when you're free to play. And the idea here is you want to bring your standard deck. It's a best of 1 format. And essentially, you want to get as many wins as possible. 0 wins gets you 100 gold and 3 uncommon cards, which is not terrible, especially when you're building up a collection. 3 uncommons could actually help you, especially if you get hit uncommons that you're looking for. And every time you move up, you get a little bit more gold. You still keep 3 uncommon cards, 3 uncommon cards, 3 uncommon cards. And then once you get to like 4 wins, it's 500 gold, which this is your break-even point. Essentially, the 500 gold you win back, so it's like you lost nothing. You still get the 3 uncommon cards. But once you get to the 5 wins or more, this is now where that 1 uncommon card turns into a rare, plus 2 uncommons and 600 gold. 6 wins is 800 gold plus 2 rares and an uncommon, and the max amount of wins here is 7 wins and gives you 2 rares, uncommons, and 1,000 gold, which is essentially double what you initially invested. And you got to do all of this before you lose 3 times. So you can play this, you know, all at once and kind of go there and just go see how far you can get on this thing. I would say here, you know, especially this is a pretty easy event to kind of get into. It requires you to complete 1 daily quest, essentially, so it's not too bad on starting out. This is definitely a good way once you feel like you have a decent standard deck to play with. I probably expect that when we dive into this, we're going to see a lot of standard meta decks that are going to be probably kind of tricky for us to navigate, just because we are very limited on what our deck does and the value of some of the cards that our deck kind of has. So it's gonna be interesting to see how well we do, but we're gonna dive into our first game. We're gonna see how we do. Let me click the nice 500 gold here, enter us into the standard event. We're gonna submit this deck. Once you submit the deck, you can't actually change it out, so this is the deck we got to go through and kind of see how we do. So let's dive into the first game. Let's see how we do. Our opponent's going to go first, but our hand's actually not that bad. We have no spells, but we have a card that can learn. We have Velatine. So it's kind of hard to see what our opponent's playing. It doesn't look like a Planeswalker, so our Planeswalker companion of any sort, so it doesn't look like they're playing that. So probably aggro is my best guess. But, you know, you never know. And our deck does play a fair amount of spells, so it's definitely good here. Also, hold on 1 second. Let me move myself. All right. So they are looking like they're playing some sort of red. So I think we play this, we play Eye Twitch, and we say go. There's a possibility that I should play like the tap land, just because, you know, get it out of the way, get a shock out of their hand. We still get to look into our board over here. I think we just go with a pest summon in here, just because this gets bodies on the battlefield, helps block their creatures, eats up their stuff. Also, Our opponent playing some sort of removal definitely allows us to kind of, you know, protect our Witherbloom Apprentice later. But it looks like they're playing some sort of blue red snow, so it's definitely interesting in what they're going to do here. I think we play the Valentine and see what happens. So now we get the Jungle Hollow into play tapped, and then we don't have to really be behind. Okay, so they have some sort of cycling. Interesting. Let's go to attacks. Sometimes it's always good to switch things up just to kind of see if your opponent has anything. Does not look like they have any response, so that's always good. So the question is, do we play Pest? I think we play the Witherbloom and see what happens. No hold. Awesome. That's good for us. That means our opponent doesn't have any instances to react to what we have. Interesting. Yet again, nothing. That's good. We'll swing in for attacks. Everything's going pretty flawlessly here, which is great. Maybe our opponent is struggling on getting some spells, and they have our blue mana. Maybe they don't have double blue. Yeah, so we'll just get our board really wide and see what happens. Our opponent's probably gonna want to wipe the board. Okay, they're gonna scry, which is good. This definitely gives us some time off here. And it looks like they're looking for land because they missed their land drop. They're at 10, and they lose a life, and then they're going to lose a little additional life here because they're going to lose the additional life from that. And then we'll say go. All right. Well, we don't have a Planeswalker, so that's not really going to do anything. I guess they're playing Giants, which is not a bad matchup, it seems like. It seems like we had a better overall start. All right, sweet. And our opponent right now at this point looks like they're dead. Unless they can get some sort of board wipe of some sort, it looks like they're probably on the way out. Because they would need to play some... That's fine. We're just going to swing all out. Yeah. Game 1 is us. Sweet. All right, so we move up. We now already win 200 gold, so we're kind of making that gold back, which is pretty sweet. I do expect us, once we get to a higher win rate, we're gonna definitely have some struggles against some really good decks. I also think our opponent had a bad hand there. I think maybe if they had double blue, it would have been a different story, because most of the counters in this format actually are double blue, so it's definitely one of those things. All right. Our opponent's gonna go first. Our hand's actually not bad for us, you know, for our hand we have. Not on the play. It looks like it probably rogues is my best guess. So that is probably what we're on the lookout for, which is not the best matchup, I don't think, because we don't really have any ways to protect our things going to our graveyard. So our best guess is to kind of overwhelm our opponent. And there goes a Village Race and a Bastion, which kind of stinks, because those are definitely two cards that we definitely want. All right. I feel like they played that backwards because they missed. They should have played the land first, which would have helped them there. Just because the land would have milled me twice. That's fine. We're gonna need to find some sort of way to either slow down the crabs, because the crabs will definitely mill us out. And I think here, kicker, draw 2 cards. If the spell's kicked, draw 3 cards. Was it kicked? No, they only cast 3. Interesting. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to block, and then we're just going to play Plum, and we're actually going to draw the additional 1 card. But this counts as a block, and then we don't get delta damage. And we also get to learn. Pass summon in. It's fine. We'll play Pest Summon in here. So then they don't really have a good... They can attack us if they want to, but it's not the best for them just because we can double block. They can always get Luris to their hand, which is definitely not fun. That's fine. I mean, maybe they have another one. Maybe they don't. They hesitated, so that's good for us. They also have... So what's good for us is that they actually have... They actually didn't actually attack in, which also makes it seem like they don't have much going on. Removal they'll have to pay life for to protect, so I don't mind that. No tax. It's pointless for me to attack in with 1/1s just because they'll just die. We actually have a pretty good turn next turn just because we have Mortality Spear. We also have Witherbloom Apprentice. Our opponents just dig in deep. I guess they're looking for more lands. I guess they're going the mill strategy, so that's good for them. They got a couple cards, which is not bad. Another rogue for some additional mill. Our opponent also didn't attack in the air, which is actually very surprising. There we go. I was going to say, they could have done that last turn. And I kind of want to hold the Mortality Spear just because of Lurrus, because if they decide to start sacking. I guess we play another Witch. Yeah, I mean, I guess we're double witching right now. That means we create more pests. We're at 24 cards, which doesn't put us in a good position in this spot, just because a lot of our damage is like pinion damage, and we don't have a lot of it, and a lot of it got milled. Like we got a couple bastions milled, a couple things that when we gain life doesn't help. Our opponent's on the think tank. I'm not sure what the thought process is. I guess maybe they're thinking about buying Lurrus. Crippling Fear. That's fine. I'll just destroy that. I'll get pinged for 1, but you can only hit for 2, which is not terrible. That's our only other removal spell, so we gotta get aggressive here. There could be a part of me that could have won the other side of Blex, but I can't really afford to draw cards at this point, just because. I can sack to draw lands, which I'm very surprised they didn't, because they could always play... Like, I mean, I guess they can't play Lurrus. They buy Lurrus. That's fine. They play another one. Wow, they have a lot of Wind Robbers. I feel like we're going to lose to mill before we lose to damage at this point. Villatrice would have been pretty decent, but Villatrice we don't really have a good sacrifice target for, and us drawing lands doesn't help. I mean, I'll attack in, be aggressive. All right. But this is probably one of our worst matchups just because we don't really have any way to get anything back or do anything from the graveyard. Also, I guess they had to tap that way. Did they hold the land? They held the land. And there's something to get something from our sideboard. Yeah, so we're probably going to lose to mill, is my best guess here. Also, they only attacked for 1. So either they're going to... Let's see how they block here. I'm actually kind of curious. Let's just attack in and see what happens. They take it? Interesting. They're at 10. They gain 3 life up to 13. I think we sacrifice Blex. We draw 2 cards. Ping them for 1, do an additional point of damage. Plum's not great in this situation, unfortunately, because we don't really have a board. A lot of our cards that make a board are all in the sideboard. That's fine. I feel like we're at that point, though, that we probably lost just because we have no deck left, unfortunately. All right, they draw into the story. I don't know. I mean, they win next turn essentially because they attack in 3. Yeah, we're gonna get out of here just because we're gonna deck out regardless. So not a good matchup for us playing rogues. And that's to be expected that we were gonna get paired up against a pretty strong matchup, like with a pretty decent deck. Rogues is like one of those decks that's pretty fine tuned at this point. I mean, I'm gonna be happy when it's gone because it's not a fun deck to play against. I'm not a big proponent of the whole mill idea. I like this hand. It has possibilities. We can go to our sideboard to get our filter mana. Yet again, we're on the draw, which is very surprising. We're always on the draw. We just started the tournament. I mean, we've only played the 2 games so far. Been on the draw both times. Awesome. Always good to see our opponent not have anything. I think we play the Dina. Let's just see what happens. Let's play Dina and see what happens. Our opponent's showing double green. Interesting. They set back. Didn't draw a land, so they must have kept a pretty risky hand. Let's swing in first. Okay, they don't have anything with flash. I mean, I wasn't expecting them to, but it's a possibility. I guess they didn't draw another land. They kept a very not good hand, but they get out of there pretty quickly. All right, now we're at 2 wins, 300 gold, 3 uncommons. Not bad, not bad. We're getting close to breaking even. Atlanta Larry. Sorry, his name. Interesting. We're on the play finally. Hand is okay. It's not great, but it's keepable. Worst case scenario, we could always plumb for a card, but I have a good feeling we're gonna draw something. Our deck doesn't have a very steep curve. We don't play super expensive things. We're playing some sort of teamer. I'm not sure how I feel about this matchup. Teamer can be kind of interesting for us. Bluff Struck Beast, that's fine. Innkeeper. Okay, so Teamer Ventures, got it. They're more than likely not gonna block here, but we'll throw the attack out, and then we'll throw Blex. It lets them not like have a good target to attack into if they don't want to. This also puts them in a weird situation. If they want to stomp, if they want to Bone Crusher Giant here. Okay, they go right for it. Okay, that's fine. We drew a land. That's good. Do I eat the Blex is the question to get a 5/4 on the board. I think I do. I think we eat the Blex here. Sacrifice a creature. We'll eat the Blex. Gain 4 life. Make our opponent ping a life. We'll also gain a life, and we'll say go. Also makes it awkward. It makes it decent for us to throw him in front of Blood Strike Beast, so that's always good for us. Doesn't really give him a good target there. Plus X plus 0. Now we'll just block this way. See what they do. Alright, maybe they have another one. Or maybe they thought we were going to sacrifice it in some way. I don't know. We got Apprentice. We'll swing in again. Alright, they take the 1. They take the 1. Fizzles. Ping you for some damage. We'll draw an extra card. Alright, alright. We're not doing too bad. I'm okay with where we're at. That's actually better than us getting our Apprentice Scorching Dragon fired. Alright, they got themselves a Goldspan Dragon, which is not great. They may have something. Okay. They don't play anything. Interesting. No attacks. They probably have like a Ember Cleave or something, which may hurt. But we have a blocker if they don't. They could also have the Teamer Ultimatum one. All right, they have just another Goldspan Dragon. That's no big deal. It's fine. It's fine. Interesting. I mean, I guess that's fine. Get hit for 8. Maybe they have Ember Cleave. I'm not really sure what's. Nope, we just get hit for 8. Okay. They still have more plays. They have 6 mana technically, because each of these count as 2 mana apiece that produce 1 color. Dave, are they taking extra turns? I'm unsure what's happening right now. They're touching everything. Were they that much in your way is the real question. Sometimes I'm curious with like what opponents do, but we're not in a good situation right now because of that. We could gain a little bit of life, but I mean, at least have some things on the ground just to block in case our opponent decides to swing in aggressively down on the ground. But yet again, we're playing against a very meta deck. Just don't really have anything to fight it at this point. This deck is going to be one of those decks, yet again, happy when it rotates, just because this deck only works because of the adventure cards. It's a deck that really is just a Throne of Eldraine deck plus good cards from like the other sets. But yeah, it's unfortunate that you know, we get stuck against 2 decks that are just really good. Our opponent has something. They're just like hesitant about it. I mean, they have lethal. I'm just being that person who's just like making it seem like, are they sure they want to? I'm just gonna sacrifice and lose the life and just to see what I draw. So I'll just draw and, you know, gain some life and then lose some life. In this matchup, the only way that we could really go off is if we got our engine set up. It's just one of those tough things that just happens sometimes. Like, the only way we win is just if we have our cards together. Because just there are a lot of the decks that are out there that kind of are dominating the format right now are a lot of top-end heavy decks that, like, once they kind of get to that 5-6 turns, that's where they kind of take over. And our deck's kind of like, we gotta like start setting up early to put them in awkward positions in that mid-range style game / late game. I mean, maybe I was a little greedy that last game though, and I kept the hand with the full of plums, so maybe that was my bad. But unfortunately, it's kind of one of those things. Our opponent's going first. Our hand's kind of on the aggressive side. We have 2 Bastions, but I actually don't mind it. I do think it's a decent hand. It does have some good synergies to kind of have us keep on going. It is also interesting that we're kind of getting this weird balance of some decent decks and then some, like, you know, decks probably about the same level. Looks like mono red could be a decent matchup for us just because we do have a good way of producing a lot of chump blockers. It's just if they draw like the mono red curve is the one downfall. Like mono red drawing like double like 1-drops on this turn. Okay, they play Spikefield Hazard, interesting, but they do have 2 Fervent Champions. So it's good and bad, just because it is going to make it a little bit tougher for our opponent. Yeah, I guess we got to play the black side. We'll play Dina here. Hunt for Specimens is also good, but unfortunately it's only a 1/1, and these have first strike, so 1/3 is definitely something that gets a little awkward for our opponent having to swing into. All right, they had a Fire Prophecy. They were definitely playing some interesting cards here, because typically red doesn't play Spikefield Hazard, nor do they play Fire Prophecy. Usually if they're playing Snow, they're playing the Frost Shock. But, I mean, yet again, it's definitely not terrible. It looks like they're throwing a lot of the removal down. So, I mean, if we can set up okay, like, we could definitely recover here. Like, us playing a Bastion's not bad. It's not, like, going to kill their creature, but, you know, throwing a blocker up that's going to, you know, ping them for a point of damage to gain us a life, kind of negating half the damage, kind of blocking that. And then once we kind of, you know, hopefully get some more stuff out. Okay. So are they not gonna allow me to block? All right, so that's the way they go. Okay, so they're gonna swing in for 5. So it's a very one-drop heavy mono red deck. I just realized they haven't played like any of their bigger drops. We'll gain a life. Some for specimens here, good. I guess we Bastion. Make them have to tap that in order to swing at us for 4. But then we gain 2 if they do kill it. They've drawn a decent amount of removal. Fire Prophecy, Shock. They've drawn 2 Spikefield Hazards. So they've drawn a very mana efficient removal style thing here. It's just unfortunate. I don't know if we're gonna be able to kind of get to do anything with the way their deck is set up. They're holding here. I guess they're thinking about they don't want to allow us to do anything. Like, Hunt for Specimen is going to be really good here. I don't know why they're thinking so hard. I mean, the logical thing is you Hall Monitor tap so this creature can't block. Swing it for 4 is definitely good. I think that's the play. I mean, you could also swing in for 5 and, you know, make me chump block. You know, I still take 4. I'm down to 3, but then you possibly take, you know, you take 2 points on the way back, kind of canceling out a little bit of that damage. Very unsure. All right, another Hall Monitor. Interesting. So that was the hesitation. So I think the play here is you probably block a Hall Monitor, because the idea is we want to kill one of them. That leaves them with less stuff to do anything with. So they had Ember Cleave. That was the struggle. Was, what do I do here? And we're at 0. Sometimes you get mono red, you know? And that's unfortunate. All right, let's claim our prizes, see what we get. We got Zenith Flare, we got a Polywog Symbiote, and we got a Blitz of the Thunder Raptor. So we got everything from Ikoria, which is a set that's rotating. But, you know, it wasn't terrible. We didn't lose, per se, a lot of gold then. We still made back 300 of the 500 we spent, so we're negative 200, which is not terrible. We also completed one of our quests. The one thing I wanted to mention, but kind of before I wrap up, is if you hover over your quests, you'll notice that once a day you can click on your quests. And what you want to do is you want to roll any of your quests that save 500 gold and try to get one of these ones that save 750, because this is going to be your best way to net yourself a decent amount of currency in one big chunk. It's just a good way to kind of build up currency that way. You definitely get more bang for your buck if you're completing quests that are for 750 than you are for 500, because you get that additional 250, allowing you kind of accrue more gold per day. But with that being said, guys, I know this didn't go the way I wanted to. You know, we only got 2 wins out of 5 games. But if you like the video, hit that like button. It definitely helps out a lot. If you're new here, wanting to post new videos on the channel, hit that subscribe button. I'll see you in the next video.